Hey everyone, welcome back to Taking Back Monday. I'm so excited that you decided to join us and say goodbye to the Sunday Scaries. And I'm even more excited to introduce you to my new friend, Phil. Phil, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Alyssa. Super pumped to be here. Let's get to it.
So we first got to talk about how we got connected. I love TikTok. I will tell everybody that I'm going to be so sad if it actually does get banned because I learned so much. And I have such a great experience with some of the people in the communities that I met. And that's actually how you and I met. We met through TikTok.
That's right. The algorithm brought us together, Alyssa. It was fate. But
It was.
I did. I was scrolling through and I wholeheartedly, my number one platform is Instagram, believe it or not. But I also like TikTok. And I was scrolling through and you were interviewing someone that was talking about play. I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head. He's got gray, spiky-ish kind of hair. And
it was Mike Brennan, and we were talking about creativity as a practice.
Yes.
Very cool.
So I didn't know you or Mike, but I found your clip in conversation really valuable. So I saw what you were doing, and then just clicked on your link and started watching and clicking around and commenting, and I think that's what brought us together.
I love it. I love it when the internet can bring two complete strangers from across the world together to do something really cool.
It is cool. And sometimes that algorithm does work in our favor. We're like-minded people or people that are trying to do good or grow themselves. All of a sudden, you start accidentally meeting more of them in a great way. So there are some benefits to social media, though we know there's a dark cloud in some areas too.
There are. Absolutely. Absolutely. Key is not to let it, overwhelm your life.
It's so true.
So, Phil, tell us a little bit more. I'm reading your bio and, you describe yourself as a tattoo-covered, high-energy chemistry and physics teacher, but a Netflix baking show?
Yeah, I flopped on a Netflix baking show. Nailed It was the name of the show. And I got on there and unfortunately I lost. I didn't win the 10 grand, but I had a blast. I'm a big amateur baker and cook. I love to create, and food is one of those ways I most enjoy creating. So yeah, I ended up on a Netflix show randomly and didn't do so well. Not a great resume booster, Alyssa, but still a fun thing to talk about.
I know. It's like your perfect icebreaker, every single time.
Exactly. I like that.
So, again, reading through your bio, you talk a little bit about givers. What do you mean by givers? Who are they?
Yeah, I think probably if we all look into ourselves, we all are a giver in some way. But I love to pour into adult givers, those people who their career consistently give. So educators, teachers, nurses, doctors, salespeople who are constantly trying to give to their clients, support them in some way. People who constantly give out value in some way and often don't always get thanked for it. That's really my wheelhouse. And I see that firsthand, I just finished up my 19th school year. I'm officially on summer break now. But this is my 19th school year teaching public school chemistry and physics to 16 to 18-year-olds. So I see givers all the time. And I don't know if you remember your high school experience, but not everyone was thrilled to be there, Alyssa. Is that hard to believe?
As the listeners will know, I coached that high school dance team. And I can absolutely believe that. The teenagers, especially of the last couple of years, I hate to be that person back in my day. But, the post-COVID teenager is just a little different than the pre-COVID teenager.
Yeah, I think we're all a little bit different from that. And education most definitely has changed dramatically. And that's actually how I find myself on this path, pouring into givers. So 2020 lockdown, I was doing virtual school. I had a lot of students struggling, and not necessarily, though a lot of them were struggling with people getting sick and them losing loved ones, which was awful, but also a lot of students who actually were fine medically, but just found themselves in their house, unmotivated, unexcited, starting to get lonely, sad, depressed, or just in this rut of just being with just kind of doing nothing. And then as we came out of it, it was really hard. And as you know, being a coach, it's hard to sometimes motivate and get through to students because they're used to one form of communication, maybe over another. And that one-to-one, face-to-face human connection was lost for a little bit. And we're slowly trying to get that back. But the reason I brought that up is, as an educator, as a giver, saw a lot of my coworkers, including myself, get really burned out, really starting to dread work, really starting to feel like we didn't have a purpose or we weren't making a positive impact. And because of that, that really impacted our culture of our building, just us, the way we showed up to work every day for ourselves and for others. And that's when I started really diving even further into what is it that allows me to stay resilient, to stay high energy, even when times are really rough with my specific environment and situation. And I started looking into more of positive psychology and realizing that a lot of the things I naturally did were backed up by research and science on what happy, flourishing people tend to do, even in negative situations. And because of that, I felt called to, wow, maybe I can help some adults who are givers, parents, like I said, nurses, so many different types of humans, different jobs. We just give and support other people. And without being thanked all the time or knowing our value, it's easy to get really depleted. And if I can help adults get over that, like I like to say, show up more inspired and less tired, then that's a really huge win for me.
And let's dive into that a little bit more, the specifics of that. So I've talked a lot on this podcast about how I kind of get my leadership practice or my idea practice with the kids that I work with, but in my professional life, I work with really incredible, talented, creative people who can burn out quite quickly because we have this whole pressure of taking a vision and turning it into reality, and then the critique that comes along with it, right? The constant like style, or I would have done it differently, or I would have done it this way kind of reactions. If I'm a leader and I want my team to show up inspired, what would be my first step?
Yeah, I think the number one step would need to be that as the leader, you need to take care of yourself first, because you need to show up and model what you're hoping your team is going to be able to do. So I would say, and something I love to preach, is to dig into your ERS, your ERSs. What are you that you do, that you perform daily, that fills you up? So for me, like being a father is a huge part of what energizes me. Being a teacher, whether that's students or adults, that inspires me and energizes me. I'm a creator, similar to you, Alyssa. I love to create new things. I love to cook and bake. So I'm a cooker and a baker. I'm a worker outerer. I'm a music listener. I'm also a bill payer. I'm also a lab grader. So some of our ERs really build us up and some of them deplete us. But what the goal is if we know more about our ERs that inspire and energize us, and we're intentional about building that into our day. I love structure. So I have a pretty rigid schedule Monday through Friday when I'm in my career teaching. I could tell you 90% of the time, like at what time, what I would be doing. And a lot of people don't find that very sexy. But to me, that builds structure. And by the end of the day, without me having to strain my brain and plan, I've hit on so many things that fill me up. And because of that, when I lay my head down at night, I feel really good. Like I've accomplished a lot. Like I was more excited than depleted. And that at the end of the day, I ended up net positive. So again, that takes intention. And as a leader coming into work, if you're doing that for yourself and bringing your natural gifts and talents to your life and build it in, that is going to slowly, I like to say, like skunk the room. Your smell, your energy is going to coat everything. People are going to pick up on that and they're going to start to follow along with that and be inspired, maybe without them even realizing it.
I love that. The ERS. I think that's really important. And I swear, like, we didn't plan this ahead of time, but today we're recording this podcast on a Monday. And I had a call this morning with one of my mentors, and I was telling him what a busy weekend I had. And, okay, we had this with the kids all day Saturday. And then I was at a conference speaking on Sunday, and I'm kind of just gonna kind of exhale on Monday because it's just me. I only have myself to worry about this morning. And he goes, yeah, one of the things I'm most worried about you is how do you take care of yourself? And I didn't have a great answer for that. What am I doing when I'm not working, speaking, or parenting, right? When I'm not the worker, the mother, there's my error.
Yeah.
The worker, the mother, or the speaker.
And I think, Alyssa, you're not alone. You're naturally a giver. You're giving to your family. You're giving to your business. And sometimes when we want to just give to ourselves, we either feel like it's selfish. Some of us feel that way, or we feel like, oh, it'd be nice to do that. But honestly, my business needs this more than I do right now.
Right.
And I think me being an entrepreneur, I'm an educator, but I also own a side speaking business with my best friend, speaking to youth. I also own my own personal business, Positive Growth Lounge, where I speak to adults. And I also run a teacher membership where we meet to try not to burn out. So like, listen, I get it. There's every second of my day, there's always something I could be doing. Absolutely. Yeah. As soon as you're off this talk, I could be writing emails to better advance my business. I could go work out, right? We all have choices, but I think when we start digging into, and as your mentor mentioned, how are you taking care of you? If just creating a routine, maybe in the morning, maybe at night, but setting that aside for us, for ourselves, it can really springboard the day so that we are more energized, more focused, and maybe we can accept the fact that the better we show up, the quicker and higher quality we do the work that we have so much to do of. So by taking that time for ourselves, you may end up doing that task later in the day even better or even more creatively because you invested in yourself first.
Right. It's no different than like if I have to drive my car a long distance, I have to put gas in it so that I can go. And no amount of the fact that I have to get to my destination changes the fact that my car needs gas.
Yeah. And trust me, if you want it bad enough, you'll get there. You'll hitchhike, you'll walk, you'll run. But man, if I would have just gassed up in the beginning and hit cruise control, I would have ended up getting there. Even if it was at the same time, because I started later, it would have been a lot smoother of a path.
A lot less painful for sure.
Yeah. No, I like the rush of hitchhiking. You never know who's going to pick you up, Alyssa.
Yeah, you never know who's going to murder you today. That's really my favorite.
You could end up with a documentary on Netflix. It could be cool.
I could be famous for being murdered. That'd be great.
So I wholeheartedly agree, though, what your mentor brought up in that it isn't supernatural for givers to think about ourselves. But I love how Rachel Hollis says it. She's like a motivational speaker person. But if you're pouring a pitcher and you're pouring it out and you deplete, that pitcher's empty, you've got nothing to pour. You have to stop and refill. So you got to take days off of work. But if you build in that you're constantly filling your pitcher up with the things that do fill you up, and then your pitcher starts to overflow, well, that's the best scenario. Now you can give because your pitcher's overflowing, but you're also not depleting yourself where you're running on empty. So that's my whole philosophy. The more we can structure in the ers that fill us up, we're less likely to have that pitcher run out, your gas tank to run out, and we're able to continue to give either just as much or maybe even more, which is my last and favorite step. That leader that you asked, like, what do they do to show up to work? Once they show up being the model of energy, they'll also have more mental capacity to give to others. And we all know when we give in our own unique way. So for me, Alyssa, if I was giving to you in some way, I'd probably bake you something, try to figure out one of your favorite sweets or desserts. And like when we meet, like surprise you, like with just 6 cupcakes or something. Oh my gosh, I love lemon blueberry. Like that's my way of showing love. And like one of my ers, like I'm giving a little bit of myself to someone. Now, not everybody's going to do that. And that sounds miserable and depleting to some people. But some people are just beautiful with their spoken words. They're so eloquent. And when you hear it, it's warm and it hits the heart. Those people, when they have more mental capacity to work, can say that praise. And when people hear it from them, you know it means something because they're just those people that are wordsmiths. They're just so good with the spoken word. But all of us have our own unique, quirky gifts or talents that make us us. And when we have the mental space, not just to survive, but thrive, we're more able to give some of that good stuff to others. I mean, don't get me wrong. I want to feel good. I feel like high on life, like stoned out of my mind when I do something good for someone and you can tell they love it and appreciate it. They feel good. I feel good. Some people could argue I feel good because it feeds my ego. I'm okay with that. Everybody's feeling good and I'm here for it. So the more we can show up and mentally be available to give to others without depleting ourselves dramatically, I think is a humongous win and an incredible goal in life.
Just in case you're listening, Susan, I love your Andy's Mint brownies that you bake. So feel free to give me some of those.
Susan, I'm at
As soon as you're like
8710
bringing a drink.
Randolph Court. Feel free to send
Yeah.
some my way too.
Feel free to bring them over. No, I have a coworker whose wife makes the best brownies, and they're always my favorite. She only makes them during Christmas, though. So
I think that the pathway to most people's hearts is through their stomach. So
100%.
for me, that's how I express love, and that's how I feel like I can give love. So, but everybody's got their way. It doesn't have to be food, but feel free to send me anything if you guys make food. I love to try new.
I love it. I love it. So, this whole show is my maybe fever dream or hallucination that, work can be something that's really valuable. I don't want people to do this thing that we're going to do 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week for some people and just have this feeling of ruining our weekend because we are so stressed out about the fact that tomorrow is Monday and kind of dealing with those Sunday scaries. Do you have any tips or tricks for someone who wants to really live in the moment of their personal life so that they can live in the moment of their professional life?
Wow. Yeah, I think that is a wonderful question and a beautiful goal that I think we all have to continuously work towards. I don't think it's somewhere where you like reach it and then you're good. I think it's something we have to be intentional about. I think that, first of all, setting mental boundaries, like when I'm at work, I'm doing my absolute best. And hopefully you can find ways that you feel give you purpose, right? So for me, it's easy with teachers, right? Like that's an obvious one. Like you're pouring into the youth. Oh yeah, like of course. But like, let's say you're working a desk job. For example, I was speaking to the College of Nursing for the University of Illinois in Chicago. So these were the great humans that were supporting people getting grants for research and supporting the teachers that were teaching future doctors and nurses in that, right? And so some of them, they do a lot of paperwork. So some days you might feel like, what am I doing? But I said, but do you realize like without you, you can't create $200,000 grants to help the next scientist find the next cure that's going to save someone's life. Without you doing this paperwork to get the federal funding, you can't pay this professor that's going to inspire the next 40 nurses that are going to help people who are sick. So again, do we dig in and realize that even if right in this little circle, you don't feel like it creates that much purpose, but there always is something we're contributing towards. So finding that purpose is going to allow you to try to dive in and focus more during work because you have a purpose. Then when it gets to the weekend, can you say, I did my absolute best. Now it's time to shut it down. I'm going to fully be immersed in just my life. And that takes practice, intention, easier said than done, especially when something you're worried about is coming up. But the more we're aware that we can work towards that, I think the more likely we can start to do it.
I think I want to key in on one thing that you said there. The idea that like, okay, I'm filling out these grants, right? Grant writing, not the sexiest activity for, at least in my opinion. Like no. It's a slog for sure. But the idea that your grant writing could literally change the course of human history if you solve or find a cure or be the gateway for someone to do something that the world is waiting for.
Yes.
Like that's such a powerful mindset and a shift in the way you look at it. Don't look at it as I'm writing a grant and I hate this and I don't want to do it, or that I'm writing a grant and I enjoy it, but what good is it, right? The idea of connecting our work to some higher outcome or some bigger picture and being really focused on and intentional on making that connection I think is a really powerful idea.
And I think positive psychology research proves when we know we have some type of purpose, we tend to flourish more, tend to be more inspired to do that work. So I would say if we are miserable with our job or Sunday scaries are coming, ask yourself, what is it that I'm so worried or nervous about? Is it the amount of workload? Is it that I don't think I'm doing anything valuable? What is it? And then try to find a reason to understand that, no, that's not true. I do bring value. Or no, that's not true. No matter what, this job will always have tons of work. but I'm going to show up tomorrow, do my absolute best, and understand that no matter what I do, it won't all be able to get done. It's impossible. And that is okay. That's job security. And I'll come back the next day and hammer at it again. So sometimes it's our mind shift. The other thing that positive psychology tells us is that without challenges, without pushing past things occasionally, without something pushing back and feeling friction, we're the hedonic treadmill. When things are really good, our body gets used to it. Our lives, you win a couple $1 million and drive a Bentley, couple days, you're going to love that Bentley. And then after about 3 months, you're really just going to think of it as a car, right? Our brains adapt to what's natural. So the only way for us to continue to feel like we're flourishing is to continue to find small challenges and overcome them. And when we do, we feel a sense of pride. We feel that sense of we did it. And all of a sudden you're flourishing again. So happiness, they say, I think it was a Yale professor, happiness is like a leaky tire filled with air. When it's full, it's great and you're cruising, but it's always going to leak out. You always have to keep pumping air into it. Happiness just doesn't show up and stay forever. It's always going to take work. And that's unfortunately just the way our brains work. It's impossible to ride the happiness high without doing anything your whole life.
Yeah, happiness is a choice in some ways, right?
Yes.
Like you can choose to make the choice to, change your circumstances or work towards something different.
Yeah. Happiness takes action too, right? The choice to take action. I like to say, to make the best possible outcome. Even we all get in weird situations or we do things we don't feel like doing. I think our society has got addicted to the idea that we should always feel pleasure. And the human brain can't handle that. We need to feel pain to accept and appreciate pleasure. Now, I'm not saying go out there and purposely hurt yourself, but without struggle occasionally, without painful moments, without uncomfortable awkwardness, we can't really appreciate a beautiful afternoon off where by my house, it was just 70s and breezy and sunny and the sky was pink with the sun setting. And I just looked out, I was eating my dinner and it was like, damn, look at this beautiful world. But if I didn't have some things that I was working hard towards in just that moment of exhale, I don't know if I would really stop and appreciate that if everything was always perfect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Phil, I think you and I could probably talk forever.
Yeah.
But if someone is, I want you to think of who in your experience is really taking back Monday. Who should we be talking to?
Well, I love this question because there's about 3 million people I can think of thanks to the algorithms. Yeah.
I say we only have so much time. So maybe give us your top 5,000, right?
I'm going to go with one gentleman who's really poured into a lot of people. And I randomly met him on Instagram. His name is Craig Siegel, and he's a personal development guy that has just blown up in the last few years. I randomly heard him on a podcast, reached out and simply told him, Instagram message, hey, I just really liked your energy on this podcast. Just letting you know I'm cheering you on and you definitely gained a follower. I'm watching your journey. He messaged me back. We met for 10 minutes. He runs this personal development group and I bought in immediately and I love it. There's just a bunch of good humans, but he is constantly shifting his mindset to how can I give more and also try to enjoy it all. Enjoy the things that I feel overwhelmed with. And he constantly preaches it. And I really feel, when you surround yourself with people with that mindset, it becomes more your mindset too. So Craig Siegel, and he's a New York guy, Alyssa. So you hear him talking. It's hilarious. I'm a Midwest guy. So we just say like waffles weird, but I could listen to New Yorkers all day. So he's just a dynamic guy. He's crushing it and he's changing mindsets and I appreciate him.
I love it. So Phil, if someone really connected with you, if they really love what you had to say and want a little bit more from you, where can they find you online?
Thanks for asking, Alyssa. So I am everywhere. If you just Google my name, Phil Januszewski, which is not easy to spell, you'll find me, but www.philjanuszewski.com. And then all my handles are at Phil Januszewski, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. You'll find me there, but I'd love to connect and just learn from you and also just cheer you on. The more good people, the merrier, Alyssa.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on Taking Back Monday. I really enjoyed this conversation.
I enjoyed it too. I agree. We could have talked for hours. I love connecting with you. Thanks for all you do and putting this information out there. I think it's super valuable.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.